that create any challenges in the production,
But yeah,
having everything to look in the 80s?
for sure. Are you kidding me? It's like, who does a period piece with like a low budget? Are you crazy? Yes, we're crazy.
He came into my life and he changed everything. I mean, he gave me fans, he gave me followers. There's the more VTVers he gets, the more likes he gets, the more powerful he becomes.
How many likes in the last video did we get?
2.
The one before that.
2.
Seriously?
If I could just get more views,
Welcome to Viral Universe.
then I could be popular.
I'm Mr. Viral.
Mr. Viral?
Wait, no, who's that?
Mr. Viral.
Probably just a computer program.
Let's get to work, shall we?
We're famous, dude.
I love the video.
This is the best thing that ever happened to us.
What the hell happened to you, O'Connell?
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, it looks like I am.
Just remember us little people.
Will you trust me, Becky? Sure. Sure.
Booyah!
Cheesy, but okay.
Welcome to a Listen to Learn episode of the Share Life podcast. I'm Jason Scott Montoya, and today I'm speaking with Todd Pringle. Todd, say hello.
Hey, how's it going, Jason?
Good to have you. Todd he has accomplished one of the most difficult tasks on planet Earth. He completed a independent feature film. So we're going to talk about that journey and the lessons he learned along the way, how he do things differently. It'll be some insights for you as you go down the journey of building or your own short film or feature film, and hopefully he can help steer you around some of the landmines that he accidentally stepped on. So Todd and I originally met around 2010. I had a marketing agency at the time called Noodlehead Marketing, and he was moving to the Atlanta area and was freelancing. And so my company hired him for some freelance design work.
We moved back. You know, I'm originally from Atlanta. So I was in South Carolina for about 6.5 years, and actually had a small ad and marketing agency with my parents.
Printing. Did you guys do printing stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, if I remember right. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
And I think that was the project we hired you, is you had like a printing design background.
Yeah.
And so you launched your own video production company in 2011 called The Idea Studio, and you can check that out if you're interested in working with Todd later on. You have a co-producer on this film. So the film is called Going Viral. It's now available on Apple and Prime. You can stream it on Tubi. And so your fellow producer was Kevin. Tell us just how that relationship came about, because that kind of spawned, you ended up writing this screenplay for Going Viral.
Sure. Yeah. So Kevin and I have been friends for a long time, since probably the early 2000s. We both played in the same band, but at different times, believe it or not. And
wow.
He was an original drummer, and I came in and was the later drummer. And when I met him through the band, I didn't realize he was the original drummer. But anyway, we developed a friendship over the years, and kept in touch when I moved to South Carolina. And when I moved back, we just kind of got in touch with each other. And I was working at a small marketing firm in Alpharetta right after I did some freelance for you. Mm-hmm. And brought Kevin in on a couple projects, and he was working, I think, at East Coast Entertainment at the time. And before that, he had worked in radio at 96 Rock. Um, and then he always wanted to kind of make the jump to get out of that and into more video production film. Kevin had actually done an independent horror back in like 2002, I think, called
Yeah.
The Greenskeeper. It's kind of a cult
Cult
horror
classic.
film. Yes, on a golf course. It's it's a fun one. And so anyway, so he's always had kind of film in his blood, you know, and he ended up working on a couple of indie projects while we worked together. And he brought me in as just, I mean, I came in on one and did a few shots. Like I did a crane shot and some stuff for one of the films. And then I did some art direction on another one. And so anyway, we just kind of just kept that going. And we started talking about, you know, us wanting to do a film together. And anyway, it was just funny because we had like different tiers, right? We had a very low, mid, and then high tier. And going viral was like the low tier one. I mean, at first, because we were thinking, okay, we're going to just have like one location, you know, a kid's movie, kids in a house, you know, something crazy goes on. But it just kind of snowballed into this bigger idea. So we started writing that in the summer of 2019. And I think that's when I contacted you. And
we had a couple meetings, me, you, and Kevin.
And so you came in and was just kind of helping develop the story a little bit and consulting with us. And then, you know, 2020 happened. COVID happened. And then just everything sort of went sideways and, you know, put us on hold for a while. So I took that time to, you know, I tried to use it to my advantage. And as a designer before, and just created, you know, Instagram page and started just creating content. Like 80s content, because I knew that the movie was going to be set in this kind of alternate 80s universe. So I just started developing relationships with other, you know, this 80s community. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, I had a blast because, you know, that's my generation. And I just love it. So,
well, let's unpack a couple of those pieces. So, I think if I remember right, so part of what you were building the Instagram following and the social following. Had you finished the script before COVID, or did you continue to work on it through the pandemic?
Yeah, so the first draft was done, I think, by January 2020, something like that.
So it was right before the pandemic began.
yeah, exactly. So I was passing around to a few people and just trying to see if we could drum up any money at the time. And that was tough. I mean, it definitely evolved. The story evolved. And then, you know, once we got...
and I have... so here's this little...
little
pamphlet you made. Remember this?
Yeah.
Going viral.
That's
the investor breakdown there.
There you go.
Budget. So
that was the original.
Yeah.
Like the original handout.
There's Todd, Kevin, and myself. A little bit there.
There you go. Yeah. That's awesome. You still have that. Yeah. That's cool, man.
I handed a few out, but I kept one just to
keep. That's cool.
This in memoir. So.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, just trying to get people on board with the whole project. I mean, that's just a task within itself, right?
Yeah.
And then when you start asking people for money when COVID happens, it's makes it even harder.
Well, so before we dive into the money making, let's talk about the screenwriting, because had you written a screenplay before? Was this your first one, your 10th one, your 100th one?
Oh, no. I've written a few. Written a lot of shorts. You know, when I was in school, I did some short films, and I did a short film back in 2007 that made its way through a couple of film festivals, and then I started writing a feature film that was kind of my homage to Goonies, which was like a kid's adventure that took place where I was living in South Carolina, and actually that finished right before I started going viral, because I started writing that in South Carolina and I kind of put it on the shelf, and then I pulled it back out. I was like, I got to finish this thing. Yeah. And I did. And I realized it was going to probably take a lot of money to make, you know? millions to make it right.
Yeah.
And so I kind of was like, okay, let's just hold on to this one, that maybe someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've written a few.
Yeah. So so a couple things is, now that you finished the project, and if you could go back to the screenplay writing piece, to 2020 Todd, 2019 Todd, what would you tell yourself just from the screenplaying, the writing side of things? Is there anything, or do you feel like you really had it in a good place, and you wouldn't have done anything different?
I mean, as far as the story goes, not really, because it evolved.
Mm-hmm.
And once we got Vincent involved, I feel like it changed even more.
Mm-hmm.
Vincent had some good experience already, and he was able to kind of shape it up a little bit and format it as well. So there were some things in there that, when you've been writing for a long, long time, screenplay, like the format, even though it's kind of standard, still there's things that change now, I think, that are more relevant to writing. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would change anything per se in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Typically you would say, yes, I would go back and take this out because we didn't have the money to shoot it. But
well, I guess that's a good question. Is it better to be more ambitious in the screenplay and then cut it out, or is it better to cut it out and then add it later, or just not add it at all?
So the way I write, I just write, I shoot for the stars.
Yeah,
because I got to get it out of my head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't write in a way where I'm just thinking budget, like, oh, we're only going to have like $100,000 or whatever, so we can't go shoot, at this mansion, or we can't go shoot, wherever this exotic location or whatever. Yeah, I just shoot. I mean, I just write the way I want to, and then, once we get to that point, I mean, that's a good thing, really. Once you get to the point where you're like, oh, we actually have money now. Okay, now we can start cutting back.
Yeah. And how much? So you're moving into the raising funds, but how much? Like, when you think about everyone that contributed money in some form or fashion, how much did the story itself or the idea? How much was that a part of it, and how much were people like donating because they trusted you or they had a relationship with you? How many were just wanting to be involved in a film project? Like, how would you kind of break out the motivation for why people gave you money or contributed?
That's a great question. I mean, I would say at the beginning, you have somebody like a parent that believes in you and says, hey, I'll give you a little bit, right? And you're like, okay, well, I got something.
Yeah.
Or like
someone believes in me.
like an uncle or somebody, right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, for me, I'll just tell you the story. We had a friend of the family that had been a president CEO of a couple of large companies. My mom actually suggested talking to him just about the pitch deck, and just said, hey, why don't you talk to this person to look it over as a potential investor, and just say, hey, how can I make this thing any better? And so I looked to him as, just for advice. And we went through about 3 or 4 meetings. And the last meeting, he said, hey, I want to come on as an investor, and I can do the top tier.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, whoa.
Which was how much money?
$25,000.
Okay. And at the time, we got 40,000 is how much you were raising. So was that 25 out of the 40, or was that a bigger number when you were talking to this guy?
40,000 for like the first few scenes, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. It ended up being a lot more than that. But through that relationship, he said, hey, do you know this person that was in his network? And I said, no. And he said, well, let me do an email introduction. And he's like, he's been in the film space. And so I talked to that guy, and he said, I'm not really into this. I'm putting my investments into other things now, technology companies. He said, but send me your script. So I sent him the script. And then about 2 weeks later, he said, I was on vacation with one of my friends who is also a client of mine. And we were asking his son what he wanted to do, after high school. And he said, I think I want to act. He said, well, read this script. And then he's like, Todd, this kid won't stop bugging me about the script. He's like, he's read it like 2 or 3 times already. And he's like, so I tell you what, I'm going to write you a check. And I bet if I do that, his dad will too. And I was like, oh, okay. So now all of a sudden we have real money, right?
So between the three of them, how much had you raised at that point?
I'm going to say 75-ish, maybe
Okay.
80.
Yeah. And for context, what was the total amount you raised in entirety?
At the end?
Yeah.
Do I have to say that?
Well, if you don't want to, you don't have to. Just to give people context.
Yeah, I'll say it was over 100 and under 400.
Okay. So this is a big portion. This is a big portion towards the total number.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, I went out and then I met other people. Like other people would introduce me to people that they thought could be interested, that kind of thing. And you know, you just got to put yourself out there. It's not easy. It's hard asking for money.
So tell us about that. Like, how did it feel being rejected over and over again? How did that change you as a person?
I don't think it changed me. I mean, I guess you just learn to hear no, or I can't at this time, or I would love to, but you know, we've got our money tied up in our grandkids or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you just kind of get used to it. I mean, especially when you run a business for a long time and you go out and get business and you have people that, you know,
You kind of were already down that road.
Yeah. I mean, starting out and you're young, I mean, it is tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just you got to get past that, because with 100 no's, you know, all you need is that one person to say yes.
Yeah, that first one, that's a big yes to get 25 at the beginning. What advice would you give to someone who is trying to raise funds for their independent film?
I mean, I would just say, just be persistent, you know?
Yeah.
Don't give up right away. I mean, if you really, really want to do this, you've got to be persistent. It's just like a discipline almost. Mm-hmm. Like wake up and say, you know, I'm going to reach out to like 10 people today.
Yeah.
And use your network. You know, don't be afraid to.
Yeah. Is that something that just the experience of going through this, it really expanded your network in more and unexpected ways?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. Develop relationships. I mean, I just love that anyway.
Yeah.
I love just to, like, you know, you're meeting new people, so you're just developing new relationships.
And is that something that you were really pursuing on your own? Was Kevin also part of that? Were you guys both tackling that problem from the fundraising standpoint?
I think Kevin felt like his well was a little dry just from like
he tapped everyone out for his other projects.
It's like, bro, I just I can't ask anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, unless you're dealing with like a real film investor, right?
Yeah.
That has been there, that's what they do. I mean, it's a different ball game.
Yeah. Talk to the investor that might be listening to this. Like, what would you tell them in terms of either encouraging them to kind of jump on something like this and why they should do that, and also what the risk is?
Well, there's a huge risk, right? Because, I mean, things are so different now. It's a great time to make films because it's much easier. We have like the technology, we have like all the equipment, everything's a little bit cheaper, but it's flooded, right? So there's so much content out there. There's so many films, opposed to the 90s when I was in school and independent film was really taking off. And, you know, you had like these great young filmmakers that it seemed like, you know, if you just made something like really unique and good, you could maybe get into Sundance and you could get a deal and that kind of thing. But nowadays it's so different. So to tell an investor, I would just, you know, just say like any investor, it's a risk regardless, right? So I say film is pretty high risk. You don't know if you're going to get anything back. You hope you get something back. And of course you hope to capitalize on what you put in as well. Those kind of things usually happen if you do make a license deal with, you know, maybe a streaming company or something like that. But yeah, I'm not sure what what advice I'd give an
Well,
investor.
why should they invest even if there is a risk? Maybe that's a good question.
Well, I mean, the way there are like incentives, I guess, like tax write-offs. I'm pretty sure there's a code. I can't remember what it is, a tax code that allows you to write off the whole amount for
Okay.
like the first year or two,
Hmm.
which is nice.
Yeah.
Depending on the state, so in Georgia, you still have the tax incentive here, but
Hmm.
that's typically movies that are over 500,000.
Okay.
So a small budget film isn't going to get that. Um, but some investors just love film. I have a
Yeah.
couple that just love to be a part of it.
Hmm.
Um, and it's special for them. I have one of my investors has become a close friend, and he lost his wife a couple of years ago.
Mm.
And for him, it was so special just to see one of her pieces of art, like her paintings, in the movie on the
Yeah.
wall. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So yeah, you just don't know. You don't know what's going to trigger people.
Yeah.
In a good way. I mean,
Yeah. How would you approach fundraising on your next project? Any differently or the same?
yeah. I mean, I would probably go back to maybe some of the relationships I've built,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, just see if they want to do it again. And of course, I would do a few things differently, but I'd probably just try to see if there's other people in their network as well that might be interested.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
It's
Well, let's.
like getting
Yeah,
through
go ahead.
this one is just.
It's still
It's
clearing.
like, yeah, I'm still, I still feel like I'm at that stage of like trying to get through this one because it was like such a, good piece of, I feel like, my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so you recently, just several months ago, it went live. Is there anything on your end that is still to be done, or are you just in post production entirely? Post production?
Post, yeah, yeah. There's nothing at this point. I mean, we just promote it.
Yeah.
We just promote it on social, and that's about it. We've been working recently with kind of a social media group that's helped us just with different posts and different some publicity for like Corey, just some PR for him and doing some podcasts and some radio shows and things like that. So that's really just kind of where our mind has been, just
Hmm.
trying to get more reviews and seeing if there's any other critics out there that may watch it and review it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So you also ran a crowdfunding campaign as part of the funds you were raising. Talk to us,
Yeah.
like how was that? Was that worthwhile? Was it worthwhile both for building the audience but also for raising funds? Was it a distraction? Something else?
I mean, to me, anything's worthwhile,
Yeah.
because you can always learn something. Did
And
we
I think
raise
you
a lot
raised
of
about
money
nine
from?
about nine or $10,000 or something like that.
Maybe, maybe I don't know if it was quite that much, but there was a lot of work that went into that, and I thought by trying to build the social media following first that stuff would kind of come easy. I mean,
Hmm. Easier.
easier. But it really isn't. I mean, it's still like asking people for money. I mean, even if somebody's just putting in 25-50 bucks or something like that, some people are just like, I'm just not sure. And I thought we had a pretty strong campaign. I thought
Hmm.
the campaign video, we had kind of a teaser trailer that I shot. um I thought the graphics, I thought everything was pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the end, it's just really hard, man. I kind of, I'm envious of the guys and or the people that can put those together and thrive,
Yeah.
because it is not easy. I don't know what the trick is really, because I've only done that. I've only done that one.
Yeah.
And so I would be a terrible person to ask advice about how to be
Yeah.
successful in crowdfunding.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned Vincent Vittorio, so that's a mutual friend of ours. I
Yep.
worked with him on a documentary called Inconvenient Tax years ago.
Yep.
So you guys got
Me
connected.
too.
Okay, so you were on that project too. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
just a little bit. I consulted with Vincent on that, and I think I did some graphic stuff for him too. But
Did you work with Len? Do you remember if you worked with Len at all when you were doing that?
I didn't work with Lynn on that, but I
Okay.
remember Lynn from
Yeah,
our
he's the
days.
one that did most of the graphic
Yeah, it was
animations.
great.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
he
I
did
thought it
really
looked
good work.
great.
Yeah. So he's a documentary filmmaker, and you're doing a fictional independent film. So how did that connect? What was going on there?
So yeah, so Vince and I met years ago. Funny enough, when I was in South Carolina, they had put an ad out somewhere, maybe even Craigslist or something, looking for kind of a marketing designer type person for Life is My Movie. And I just happened to be in town the following weekend, set up a meeting with he and Nathan, and we met and chit chatted. I mean, it wasn't good timing for anything like that for me, but we just kept in touch over the years. And so when this came up, I reached out to him and said, "Hey, read it." And he really liked the script. And he's like, "Yeah, I'd like to get involved." And I think Vincent wanted to get involved at first as an investor. But then the more and more he got involved, he was like, kind of helping produce it. And, again, like I mentioned before about being a part of the story and the script and helping the script evolve. And,
Yeah.
Vincent was actually the one that kind of came up with this idea because we were having such a hard had a hard time trying to figure out, this is an 80s kind of alternate timeline. We don't want to say we're dealing with the internet per se, but he kind of came up with this thing of like, hey, let's create our own ecosystem, something that's called like, this video visionary, and like it runs on this thing. And then we came up with this whole idea of like everything's kind of, with V's, right? So it's viral, video visionary, and VTV and V boxes and all this stuff. But anyway, so the more he got involved, I was like, we weren't set on a director yet.
Yeah.
And Kevin and I had somebody kind of in mind. And then I had some people saying, well, why don't you direct? You know the story the best. And then I was like, well, I kind of went bounce back and forth with that idea. And then when Vince and I talked about it for a while, we thought about co-directing. But then I knew we had a young crew, we had a young cast, and I was like, man, I don't want anybody to get confused and like, be on set and just like, who do I answer to kind of thing. So I was like, well, let's just play mom and dad, and I'll just kind of be in your ear, when needed and that kind of thing. And we'll just work together. And that's just kind of how it happened.
Yeah. And so how did that play out on set? Like more specifically?
Roles?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, he directed, and then, if something came across my mind or I saw something, or if there was something that I'd already envisioned in the script of how it would be shot, I would just talk to he and Mike, our DP, about it.
Yeah.
One of the funniest, something funny that happened in edit, that because you hear, of course you hear everything that's going on when you're editing, right? You hear like people talk in the background between cuts and things like that. And so there was a scene that we actually cut out of the film where the character Jay is supposed to be showing Beckett like this picture of the girl that he's in love with. And he's supposed to be kind of like doing this sort of girly, almost Marilyn Monroe type thing, going like happy birthday, like seductive, right? Like, oh, Beckett, blah, blah, blah. And Jay, I felt like Jay is such a sweet, or Matt's such a sweet guy. Like he just, I don't know if he didn't want to, or he wasn't getting it. So I go in there and I'm like kind of pressing on him, like really give this like sensual kind of like, oh, Beckett, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, okay. And then here, Vincent from the other room's like, yeah, just tone that down a little bit. And then Matt goes, so don't do what Todd just said to do. And everybody just busts out laughing. So yeah, you get some of that from time to time, but I try to let him do his job.
Yeah. So this was in terms of, you said you wanted to let him direct so that you could get experience. What
Yeah.
were some of the things you learned on production that have helped you become a better filmmaker?
Just being there every day, you know. I've been on a couple of films in the past, a few films. But when you're sort of at that top tier and just involved with everything, you just learn so much. You know what I mean? I mean, I can't tell you one thing. It's like everything. It's like dealing with crews, putting out fires, making sure there's food there, if something in wardrobe isn't there, sometimes, you're the one running to like Goodwill or to Target or someplace, right? So just wearing all sorts of hats and trying to, spin all those plates, which is tough, but, also I think just interacting with actors more, I've done that a lot commercially, but, film's a little different because sometimes when you're working on a commercial, and the way I've directed in the past, you can be like a line reader. I don't know if you know what that means, but a lot of times you could say like, I don't know, whatever the line is, like, jump back, don't hurt yourself or whatever. And you're going in to tell them the inflections, right? You're like, no, you really want to come in and be like jump back, like just don't hurt yourself, right? Like that's how it's supposed to be. But actors hate that.
Oh, wow.
Which is something that, working again, like on marketing videos and commercials and stuff for years, you don't really know that, right? Because sometimes you work on a video like for a company for their business, and they don't have a lot of experience. And so all you're doing is trying to help them, you know what I mean?
So
But
what do they like? If they don't like that, what is it that they do like?
I think they like verbs.
Okay.
And, I think just kind of encouraging them when they're on a roll with something, taking them to the side and talking to them about things instead of just blurting it out in front of everybody.
Is that also different based on the age, like a younger actor versus a older, more experienced? Okay.
I don't think so. I think age doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah. I think maybe you have to be a little bit more tender with younger actors, but I think you still respect them all the same. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So what are some other funny or interesting stories from the production side of things?
Oh, Jason, and we don't have that much time, buddy. I mean, I don't know. We had so many things that happened. We shot Principal in about 14 days in January 2022.
Is that less or more than you had planned?
Less.
Okay.
So I think we had it slated for about 17 days with the crew.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But it snowed one day. And so I think that took us off for a couple of days. Our lead, Shay, got COVID. So I think he was gone for at least 5 days.
And are you shooting in 2021, 22?
22.
22, okay.
Yeah, this is January 22.
Okay.
And then just stuff like that, I'm just trying to think what else. I mean, there's plenty of stories, right? It's like I don't want to target anybody or pinpoint anybody for doing anything like kind of silly or stupid or whatever, you know what I mean? I'm sure I did too, believe me.
Yeah. They have stories about you.
Well, it's just funny because, here's something. So for Mr. Viral, like the whole time we had a professional makeup artist that was creating a mask for him. Yeah. So this whole time we were actually going to, have this like serious kind of, I'm not going to say scary, but, it's going to look sort of AI-ish, mask for him. And then the day that Louis showed up on set was the first day we saw the mask, like in person. And he put it on, and I guess we were thinking it's going to be like, really like a part of his facial structure and skin because we loved his facial expressions. And it was really just like you put the mask over his head, and it was like this big mask, and he's like trying to figure out how to wear it and all this stuff. And Vince and I looked at each other, I was like, bro, this is not going to work. It's not going to work. And then our hairstylist and makeup artist just really just came up with something quickly. And yeah, it just, it just turned out to be great.
Yeah.
I still have that mask. And it wasn't cheap. The mask was not cheap.
That was half your budget there.
No, not quite. But yeah, no, this guy that made it, I mean, he's worked on some Marvel movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But yeah, just crazy things. The weather,
Well,
it's cold, man, to shoot, and we had a lot of locations. I mean, that's a tip I could probably give for any filmmaker or indie filmmaker, is when you don't have a lot of money, it's like, that's kind of a rule of thumb, is like you don't do a lot of locations. And I think we had probably like 8 locations.
Okay.
And that's just unheard of typically. But in the end, when I see the final movie, I'm just like, I'm so glad that we did it. And to me, it's just worth it,
Yeah. Talk to us about the idea of like, is simpler always better? When is it not? Like I think the mask, I feel like that was overcomplicating it, and you ended up going with something simpler.
Right.
Is that I don't know. Is that kind of a rule of thumb that generally kind of steer that way, or is it just that one scenario?
I guess it depends, right? I mean, it just depends on what you're dealing with, because I know like our production designer, we gave her the task of making the V-Box originally. So I had designed something and given her a design, and I think she was using a 3D printer to make the V-Box. And the first day of shooting was the first time we saw the V-Box. And she came over, and not to her fault, but it just didn't look like something that you would, that came off an assembly line. And that's what we needed. And like, so we just hopped online and then, ordered these guys.
Yeah.
Which was basically like a rip
Old
off
Game Boys.
Game Boy. It was like a rip off Game Boy. And so we ordered a bunch of yellow ones and 2 black ones. And, so in those ways where I was, I guess, originally thinking, we got to be so original with it. It's got to look like a certain way or whatever. We could have probably saved some time and effort to just do something like that from the get-go.
So you brought in a famous actor, Corey Feldman.
Yeah.
And he star of Goonies, if you've ever seen it. Which was one of your inspirations. So you kind of get a double whammy of like, you get to make a movie with about sort of inspired by the Goonies, but also with one of the actors. So talk to us about how that came about, why you pursued it, how you were able to land it, and then what shooting was like with him.
Sure. So Corey was in, I don't know how many. He's probably in like 14 80s movies, by the way.
Okay.
I mean, Stand By Me, The Goonies. He was in Gremlins when he was even younger.
Yep.
Like one of the Friday the 13th, License to Drive, I mean, list goes on. The Lost Boys. So he is iconic 80s.
Yeah.
We first talked to somebody else that actually, funny enough, lives in Peachtree City. And that person was great. He was very nice. I think this was really early on. And he liked the script, but he was just kind of like, I'm just not sure if it's, my thing right now to do this kind of story. I'm not sure if, he didn't think we had the money or if it was really going anywhere, but we sort of dropped that idea. And then I just started, looking at all these stars from the 80s and making a list of just different people that would be sort of like a wish list. And started reaching out to agents. And I reached out to Corey. Corey was top of the list, and reached out to Corey's agent. And man, it's just a God thing. I mean, he was the nicest guy. Like, the agent was so nice, and he was just, but he was, kind of just shot it to me straight and was like, I don't think Corey's going to do it for less than X amount of dollars. And I was like, whew. And I was like, well, we only have this. And he said, well, send me the script and I'll send it to his manager. And a couple weeks went by and he called me back. He said, hey, I just talked to Corey's manager. He's like, he loved the script. He wants to do it.
Oh,
and
wow.
we're like, what? I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was like, I was blown away. And so trying to figure out how to get Corey here and obviously to pay for him and everything. That was kind of another situation.
And how many days of shooting did you need with him?
We had 2 full days and like a part of a Sunday, I think, right before he left. So he was kind enough to come on that Sunday. I mean, we did pay him, but to help us out with something that we didn't get to on Friday. But yeah, he was great. He came in on a Thursday night, and then we shot all day Friday with him, and Saturday. Saturday was a long day, 2 locations, and then Sunday morning. So, and we shot Corey later. We shot him in May. So,
and did you save it for later because you were trying to get him, or did you save it for later for some other reason?
No, he was already on board.
Okay.
There was at the time just a lot of restrictions with SAG and COVID and things like that, but mostly just raising the money to afford to bring him here.
Yeah,
and put him up and then make him feel special and all that good stuff, of course. And he was great, man. He's a team player for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no ego. You could tell he almost I think everybody was kind of hesitant around him. Like, he's the star, so I don't know if I could talk to him and all that stuff. But I think he welcomes that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. How did everyone in the cast and crew feel about those days?
Oh, they loved it.
Yeah.
Everybody was so excited because it's like now we're we're on set like a professional, a guy that's been doing this for, probably 45 years or something. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was great, man. It really was.
And did you get everything you needed? Did you have any issues in post-production with what you shot?
You mean with just him?
Specifically with him. I know you had probably issues, but I'm curious with him specifically.
Specifically with him, no, I think we did get everything we wanted.
Okay.
There might have been 1 or 2 little things in Viral's world where we were kind of like,
Yeah.
But for the most part, yeah, we got everything with him.
Yeah.
But as far as the production goes, you edit and then you're like, oh my gosh, like we have to get this, or we're missing this, or like skating and like, oh my gosh. I mean, we shot the skateboard competition a few times.
Yeah.
So it's just endless, buddy.
Yeah. So, you're editing it while you're working on it. Are you also fundraising while you're working on it, or did you kind of get that finalized and you were done?
No, yeah, we were pretty much got all the funds that we needed. So for that second round, that helped, obviously, like I said, pay for Corey and for some of the pickups we needed, and then for post-production, VFX and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
and I imagine you had to sacrifice a whole lot of time, money, all kinds of things, maybe 2 of your kids. Talk to us about the sacrifice of the visionary making the independent film.
It's not for the faint of heart, for sure. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do, besides maybe raising my kids.
Yeah.
I always say you have to be a crazy person to do this kind of work, which is maybe kind of true, but I love it. It's funny. I always compare it to I used to ski years ago, like snow ski. Mm-hmm. And if you ever go skiing, and after a few days, your shins are killing you from the boots and all that kind of stuff. And just I'm so done with this. I'm done. I don't want to ski again, blah, blah, blah. And then, a week goes by and you're like, I miss skiing. Crazy. And so that's kind of how I feel about film. Making films is you go through this war almost, and then you come out the other side and you're just super proud. But yes, buddy, it was a lot of work, and I was pretty much involved with everything, just because you start running out of money and you want to help everybody. So it's like, even like the
Yeah.
VFX guys, which, they did 99% of the work, but I would jump in where I could and be like, hey, I can lay that stuff on that screen. I can do that. Let me have that scene and I'll take care of that. Or, like music, finding the right music or working with the composer. And, I mean, it's just on and on and on, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when you're lead producing, I mean, it's like you've got to see it all the way through. So
yeah, it's the only way it gets done is if you're moving it down, right?
Exactly.
I know the visual effects because I saw an early cut before a lot of the visual effects were in it.
Right.
So I could just see like how much work was left, and it took about a year, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. We were ambitious thinking that we were going to get it finished up by by early 2023. And then, you have to go back to all your partners and like, it's got a ways to go. And that's just, dealing with everybody's schedule. Again, a small post crew. But everybody had a great attitude throughout it. I think everybody that worked on it really loved it. So yeah, it took a while for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there was a lot of VFX. I mean, I had no idea, honestly. Like even when you're writing it and you see it, you're like, yeah. But then when you start thinking about every V box has got to have a screen, every TV, every computer screen, every, of course the third act in Viral's world, all that stuff. I think Jose, who was our visual effects supervisor, I think he said there was just over 400 visual effects. Yeah.
That's a lot.
That says anything on a small budget movie. So yes.
So how do you keep
quite
everyone
ambitious.
how did you keep everyone motivated to get it done? Because I can imagine like a lot of people get 90% and they just can't finish,
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, everybody was just really, really gracious. I guess it's like, just don't be a jerk, if there's any advice.
Be nice, be kind.
I was going to say a different word, but I'm not going to say it on your show. But it's like, you just can't be a jerk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to understand where people are and like their schedules. And, a lot of these people are like, they have day jobs too. Yeah. And then they jump on going viral from like 8 o'clock until like 2 a.m. And, for that, I'm super grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for everybody, I mean, our cast, our crew, our post-production team, they were really, really great.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So
I don't know what you think.
Yeah. I thought it was fun. It's, I think it was, I only got to play a little bit. So while you were working on your masterpiece, I think I told you I've been working on this book.
Oh my gosh.
From the Garden to the Cross. So I'm at the 90% part, the visual effects stage. And, it's been a 4-year journey to write this. So yeah, I can relate, but it's, the storytelling piece is something I've always enjoyed and look forward to kind of diving more into that as I get done with that project. So.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You should.
So talk to us about the timing of the idea, like going viral. It is a timely idea in terms of just the nature of our world right now and social media and YouTube. I'm really leaning into YouTube this year towards monetization and kind of making that a platform that I can leverage.
Yeah.
But it's kind of really, you're obviously in the 80s, but you're referring to this idea of going viral. So how does that play a part in this? And did the timing, was that a happy accident or did you intend that on purpose?
So the origin of that story was Kevin and I were like, honestly, at work one day, we were kind of just throwing ideas, brainstorming ideas. We both had little kids at the time, and we were making fun of our kids for being infatuated with these YouTube influencer kids.
Yeah.
Like they were watching other kids like all the time, which I'm sure, like kids watching other kids play video games. Yeah. Or watching other kids like play, or like open gifts or open toys or whatever. And, that's so foreign to us. And it's just like, And it's like, Dad, if I could just, build my own show and I could have everything. And so it's like, okay, so here's a story. Here's
Yeah.
a story about a kid that's, unpopular and wants to be a YouTube star. And so that was sort of the basis of it. And then the more and more we wrote it, and the scenes that we were writing, they felt so 80s. Like, oh, this reminds me of just,
Yeah.
just like
even the beginning of the movie, they're like doing the 1980s fitness dance scene.
But there were scenes where we'd be like, oh, that's just like, Better Off Dead, or that's just like from Teen Wolf, or that's just like from Can't Buy Me Love, or, that reminds me of this. And so the more and more we wrote it, we're like, man, wouldn't it be weird if we set this in the 80s?
Yeah.
And actually, I think the first idea was, maybe the main family is stuck in the 80s, right? So their house, their clothes, and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then the more and more we talked to, I think the three of us talked about it, we just set on the 80s.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, hey, we'll just make it this alternate timeline.
Mm-hmm. We'll go back to the TVA.
Right. We just hope people just jump in, right?
Yeah.
And then
did that create any challenges in the production?
Oh yeah,
having everything to look in the 80s,
or sure. Are you kidding me? It's like
you kind of have to just
who does a period piece with like a low budget? Are you crazy? Yes, we're crazy. Because you got to think about how everybody's dressed, how's their hair, their makeup, the cars, the places, any of the locations, you got to set them up. So yes, everything plays a role in that. We had to let a few things slide here and there, but we did.
That's
we did
why you had 400 effect shots.
That's right. We did the best we could. But
so, yeah, that's interesting. So okay, so the film's done. You've got it all together. Are you working on the like publishing and distribution while you're doing effects, or do you wait till it's done before you start doing that?
We might have talked to a couple people during that time, but you typically wait till it's done.
Okay.
So that you can send them a screener.
Okay.
To watch, yeah.
And so how much time between when it's done to when it's actually available to buy, you first had it available to buy on Apple and Prime, Amazon Prime?
I think we wrapped it up last August.
Okay.
Or early September, something like that. Mm-hmm. And then, or maybe it was before that. I'm sorry. Maybe it was before. Maybe it was last year sometime, but maybe we're still waiting on a few little things, excuse me. And then, it just took time. We had a rep working with us for a little while that was pitching it to different places and then different distribution companies. And then we had a list of distribution companies that wanted it. And then we ended up just picking one that, felt like the right fit at the time. So,
yeah. And then at that point, it's out of your hands.
It's out of my hands. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all we can do is help promote it.
Yeah.
So like I think I mentioned before, but, we worked with a small kind of PR/social media group to help us push the movie social and then get Corey some publicity, some talk shows, podcasts, excuse me.
Yeah. And did any of your networking, your social media building, did any of that end up being helpful, or did it end up being a distraction?
No, I think it was super helpful because, I became a part of a community. So, and, the 80s community is great. A lot of great folks that just made friendships with over the years. And they, it's kind of like a little alliance, and they were all supportive. And, if I needed them to post something or whatever, it was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's well worth it, spending time, pouring time into stuff like that and building relationships.
Yeah. So what's you've gone through this like crucible experience. You entered as one version of Todd and now you're another version. Like how did it, like, how do you look back at it? How did it change you? What were the highlights for you?
Oh, that's a great question. I think when you go through something like that, it's it makes you more confident in who you are,
Yeah.
but believing in yourself that you can do something of that magnitude,
Yeah.
you know? So I guess that's how it's changed me. It definitely shaped my faith. I've
Talk,
always, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, talk to us about how your faith played a role in this and how it.
Yeah, a lot of prayer.
God, I need a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, every day. Uh, yeah, no, God's been good for sure. And, I fully believe that he had his hand on this and, got me through it. And, there's a reason for it, for
Yeah.
sure. And my prayer has always been that it helps, everybody that's touched it, that's been a part of it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
It advances their career, and some, all the actors. I mean, all our actors are so young, and a lot of them, it was their first feature.
Yeah.
And I'm super pleased with them. I
It's
thought
a
turned out great.
springboard for them, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Between Shay and Matt, Alexis, Aline, and Louie, who played Mr. Viral. Yeah, man, they were all great.
Yeah.
So I feel very blessed. I feel like, yes, like I said, God had his hand on it.
Yeah. What were the kind of highlights, if you kind of look at the whole journey? Like, what are some of the things that really stick out to you the most?
I mean, I just think just being there, like I'm a production guy. I love being on sets.
Being on set. Yeah.
So it's always a highlight when you write something and then you see it. You know what I mean?
The satisfaction. Yeah.
Totally. Or you see people reading your lines and you're like, oh man, that's just, I mean, to me, that's the coolest. And of course, in post, and once you see it kind of finished, then you're like, I mean, no matter what, good or bad, you're going to get emotional. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember when the first cut was finished, like I did the first raw cut, like raw, and then handed it off to the editor to kind of just like give him the ball downfield. But I just remember like cutting it and getting to the end and like being at the roller rink. And I mean, I just kind of broke down just because I was like, wow, you just think about like all the stuff and the ins and outs. And it's emotional.
Yeah. What kind of emotion did you feel when you guys did your premiere?
Well, nervous because a lot of it wasn't finished yet. And, we had some of our partners were there at the theater. So, that was June of 23. And so we were missing most of the effects at the end.
Oh, okay.
So what they were seeing was like still green screen.
Okay.
Stuff.
So was that the same version I saw, the early version? Was it?
It might have been. It might have been.
Yeah. Which is very different than the final one. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. But yeah, I was super nervous. As I think anybody would be.
Now, why didn't you wait till it was done to do the premiere? Did you have a certain date in place that you had to follow through?
Yeah, I felt like they needed to see something. You know what I mean? And I wanted to kind of bring everybody back together and just kind of keep the momentum going. And it actually helped because most of our post team was there and our VFX guys were there. And it was great. So it's like everybody was making notes, right? And so at the end, it was like everybody sort of huddled up and it's like, yep, I know exactly what we got to do. And like, and so it was great. It was almost like a little rally.
Yeah. And when you show something to somebody, you see things in it that you didn't see before. So that's just a great exercise for developing the project.
Yeah. And I think most filmmakers do that, I mean, Kevin, I know he told me he was at a screening of, what was the new Coppola movie?
Let's see.
Anyway, he was there and Francis Ford Coppola was there and he was like sitting on the couch next to him or something like that. And it was just like
Megalopolis.
There you go. And they, and he's like, yeah, I mean, a lot of the effects and stuff weren't done on that. It was just like, hey, and him just asking like, the audience just like, hey, what do you think about this? And, just trying to get feedback and it helped. Yeah. And it helped sending people like you and a few other trusted advisors just to look at it early on, just so we could get, feedback. because
Yeah.
you know how it is. Like when you're so deep into something, you know, whether that's book or film or song or whatever, um, you're so close to it. You just, it's like, you can't see everything, right?
Mhm.
It's like,
Mm.
you got to step
Blind
back,
spots.
and then, yeah, there are tons.
Yeah.
And, so I like feedback, you know, it's hard at times because sometimes you're just like, oh, but this is my art. And, you know, but, yeah, you gotta
Personal.
welcome that stuff. I'm not saying everybody's right, and certainly I'm not
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
right. And sometimes, you know, comments people will give you, like, you know, it's maybe doesn't fit, you know, fit the script. Um,
Yeah.
but
And I think the timing, like the placement of the feedback, like some people are like, oh, you should reshoot that. And you're like, well, we can't reshoot it. We could
yeah,
edit it, you know? So
exactly.
sometimes people don't understand the process.
Yeah, that whole first act's got to go. Like, well, sorry.
What else would you want to share about this project that you haven't gotten a chance to share so far? Anything else that we've zipped by?
No, I think we covered most of it, man. It was just really, really fun. Um, you know, with all the hard work and the blood, sweat, and tears that went into it. In the end, you know, when I watch it, I'm super
Yeah.
proud. You know, not everybody's going to get it. I understand that.
Yeah.
You know,
If
but
you're an 80s person, you'll love it. It's a lot of
yeah,
fun.
lots of
You
80s
know, a lot
tropes.
of callbacks, even
That's
just like
right.
little props everywhere.
Yes.
Show it to your kids. They'll like it
Yes.
even if they're not if they don't know anything about the
That's right.
80s.
No, and you know, it is a kids movie, so it's
Yeah.
like, to me, the young audience can watch it. It's super PG.
Yeah.
So I mean, an 8-year-old could watch this for sure. My nephew watched
Yeah.
it. And then people like our age, or my age, I'm a little bit older than you, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that grew up in the 80s and will enjoy all the 80s tropes and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's you know, and then when Corey Feldman shows up, he kind of adds a
Yes,
gravitas or a presence to the film that makes it exciting kind of when it's starting to culminate and climax.
that's right. I agree
and
totally.
and that's fun to watch. And then it kind of goes into the virtual world, and that's pretty cool. You guys did great on the effects, like pulling those off. So
And he's not, and the good thing about Corey is he's not just a cameo. He's not just like in a
yeah,
quick
he
scene.
seems like more substantive. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, man.
So cool. Well,
Great.
I guess what are you up to next? Well, first of all, before we talk about that, how can people learn more about the film, buy it, stream it? Tell us about that, and then we'll talk about what's next.
Sure. Yeah. So, you can rent or buy it on Prime, Amazon Prime, maybe Apple TV and Fandango. You can watch it for free on Tubi. It's streaming on Tubi now with ads. And then we have a website, goingviralmovie.com. Our handle on Instagram, Facebook is @goingviralmovie.
And if someone is like they really want to support you as a filmmaker, they love the film, they love the idea, and they want to help spread the word, like what could they do to help the movie get more visibility and traction?
Yeah, just share. I think share on social. Watch the movie, leave a comment, leave a review. That would be great.
Okay, so reviews would be super
Reviews
helpful.
on Amazon are great. Reviews on IMDb are great. Yeah, even popcorn reviews on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
Yeah, those always
Yeah.
help.
Yeah. So what's I mean, you have your business, so you're continuing to do that, but on the film side of things, what's on your horizon? You want to talk about anything?
Well, let's see, a couple of things. I did finish a script last summer that's loosely in development, and that's kind of a young adult dramedy about a garage band.
Okay.
And so we'll see if that gets made one of these days.
Yeah.
It's a little more PG-13, but
yeah,
that's okay. And then I've also been working on a documentary called The Bear Trap,
Okay.
and hoping to start shooting that this fall. And that's all about the retail investor.
Okay.
Primarily the stories from the 2021 GameStop sneeze
Okay.
until today, and kind of what's happened over the years and within this retail community.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing your story and
Yeah.
the many ups and downs of the journey, and I hope this has inspired others or informed them.
Well, thanks for having me, Jason, man. I appreciate it. You've always been
Yeah.
a good friend. So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. So hopefully sometime one of these future projects we'll be able to be more involved together. So
yeah, buddy. Sounds
yeah.
good.